We were talking earlier. You mentioned you live in Martin, Kentucky. You from Martin, Kentucky as well? Or
No,
Martin County?
I'm from Mingo County, West Virginia.
No kidding. I didn't know that.
Mhm.
Yeah. I grew up in Williamson. I was one of the last kids that went to Williamson High School before they closed down and became Mingo Central.
Cool. Well, I didn't know that. That's really, really neat. Mingo County is such a special place. I feel like people don't give it the credit it deserves for being sort of I think a hub for a lot of history and a lot of really, really interesting things about West Virginia.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize, I don't think, like it could be so much more than what it is. It should be so much more than what it is, but so much was stolen and never gave back. And then we've had like the flood of 77 wiped out what little bit, we had kind of built over time after, coal became what it was, and it just never recovered. But it's kind of starting to build back up with the trail system and all that stuff coming in.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I moved from Mingo County to Martin County after I graduated. And so I'm like 20 minutes from Williamson, where I grew up. So I'm not far at all.
Gotcha.
That's where I live.
So one thing that John and I, and in fact, we actually asked this about somebody else earlier in the week. We were talking for another interview. When did you first start kind of like identifying as an Appalachian? Has it always been a thing for you? Because for us, we didn't really identify as Appalachians per se until later in life. We were always like just consider ourselves West Virginians.
That was me. Like, I always felt like, my upbringing was different than, like, a lot of people that I knew from away from here. Like, once I became an adult and I would have relationships, especially like with the internet, I'm like, like, that's a little bit different. And then it's like, just over time, the more you learn about your ancestry and your background, it's like, oh, okay, so like you draw connections with Appalachians all over. Our music, our just like our entire cultural identity is really similar. And I think like just learning more about other people's experiences throughout Appalachia, I'm like, maybe it's not just specific to West Virginia. Like, my husband, he grew up in Eastern Kentucky, and I always joked, I'm like, that should be an extension of West Virginia. And then you really like look at the bigger picture, and it's like, okay, maybe Appalachia as a whole should just be its own state. Like, we have so much in common with one another. And so it was really just about learning like my family history that made me, more embrace like the Appalachianness in my identity, like just learning more about who I am and where my family came from. So I used to like not even want to be associated with the Appalachian part because of so much negative that comes with that. I'm like, but that's not who I am. Like, I'm not, like that. I'm not. But you know what? Now I'm like, you're not going to think that we're like that. And here's why, because I am Appalachian. It's like about correcting the negative that comes with it for me.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look, we've mentioned this a lot on the show too. A lot of people look at us as like uh, ignorant hicks who carry around like a gun on their side while like drinking out like a Mountain Dew bottle and shooting the shit, right? But like Appalachia is so much more complex than that, so much more unique than that. It's one of those things. When we watched your TikTok, we realized a lot of what you're doing is, and you do it well, is you kind of get hit with these stereotypes in the comments, or you get hit with like different kind of bullshit about Appalachia, and you're very good at taking that and answering why it's wrong, and continuing to give facts about it. So I want to jump into your, I don't know if you call it like a TikTok career, but like your TikTok journey, I guess. When did you start going on TikTok and making videos?
So like I started my TikTok for my actual business. Like, I own a small business and I sew, and I'm like, okay, I would share early like video clips of things that I had planned on doing. And like TikTok opened up like a world of information that I never would have experienced, like just learning about other cultures and things like that. And I would see certain things that would just like infuriate me, like the stereotypes and things like that. And I'm like, you've got this all wrong. Like, if you can break down those barriers that people have and those like fake ideas that people have and prove, like, that is me, like when you say things like that, you're making fun of me. And I had made a few videos and I just deleted them because I'm like, you know what? This is stupid. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to go on here and try to prove myself, And then one day I was like, you know what? My niece is on TikTok and my niece is like 14 years old. And I'm like, she's on TikTok. And if she's on TikTok, there are thousands of other children growing up in Appalachia right now on TikTok, and they see these things. And I'm the adult. I have to, defend them. Like, in my mind, I'm thinking of it as my kids seeing it, or, my nieces or nephews seeing it. And it's like, that's not okay. How are we going to raise kids and say, you don't think this way and you don't be a bully and you don't do that, if we're allowed to still be treated poorly? And so I put a video out there and I'm like, everybody wants to say, oh, West Virginia is like so poor. And like, it is, but why? Why? Every problem can be traced back to the things that existed 200 years ago. Like, every issue that we are dealing with today stems from things that happened before West Virginia was even a daggone state. And I'm like, we have to get to the why, and we have to explain to people why, because my dad didn't explain stuff to me. My mom didn't explain stuff to me. It was you're not going to play a victim, and you're not, you don't owe any explanation to anyone. And like, that's nice to hear, but we're not a victim. But people do need to understand our background, just the same as it's up to us to make sure we understand other people. So I eventually just started sharing things. And the one video that really picked up was when I was talking about how hard it was for people in my part of the state to build that generational wealth. Like, we need to talk about generational poverty, because that's what happened. And I started talking about, the coal camps, and then it just led to like the Battle of Blair Mountain and all these things. And I'm like, you want to write us off, but a lot of things that have been made better in this country started in Appalachia. It started, when we put a community effort and went forward. So I think that, like, being relatable to not just Appalachians, but acknowledging like other ethnic groups, Black people, the Native Americans that lived here, things like that, acknowledging that made people like realize, okay, maybe it isn't what I thought it was. And so I just share, what I can. It's kind of hard because I have 2 kids and run a business, but I think just being relatable, and if people have questions, I try not to get angry. Even though sometimes comments do really tick me off. Okay. Can we have a snack? Yeah, you can have a snack. Can we snack? Yeah. Yeah. But some stuff really does like upset me, but I try not to like react in anger, because
Oh, I do the opposite. maybe I should. I mean, I have an entire segment on the show where I just react with anger. So maybe I'm doing something wrong.
No, I
the
mean, I think it's sometimes I'll look at the camera and I'll read a comment and I'll like cuss the entire first like record. I'm like, you stupid, and then I delete it and I'm like, that's not. If if I didn't understand something or if I said something out of the way, I feel like I get more when someone tries to correct me in a more like teaching tone, instead of me reacting out of anger. Because if somebody gets mad at me and they start screaming, I'm just like, yeah, I don't even care what you say now. So with what I try to do and teaching people, I'm like, I can't be angry all the time, even though people do make me angry.
Well, that's fair. I was a terrible professor, so that's probably why I can't teach worth a shit. Uh, so let's go from you start the TikTok, you start making videos, you're kind of into it. Fast forward to now, you have 140,000 followers. Last time I checked, the how has life changed? Has it changed at all? I mean, a lot of people associate, followers with fame, fame with fortune. What has changed for you?
Um, People recognize me in public. Like that's literally really weird,
Yeah.
especially when I have my niece with me or like I took her school shopping and we were at the Huntington Mall and there was a girl in American Eagle and she was like, "You're Danielle Kirk. You're on TikTok." And I'm with my niece and I'm like, "This is embarrassing." And I literally did not even know what to say. I was like, "Oh yeah, hi." But it's like I'm just a normal person, like I have a family. I have just a regular life. TikTok is just a bonus to me. It's never something that I started. Like some creators, they try to monetize on their platform, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But to me, like what I do, I feel like that would be another form of, me taking advantage of my experience. And I'm like, I don't need to make money off of this. I just want you to take what I'm telling you and be a better person and stop with the classism that you pack around and you direct towards people who come from where I come from. I don't think there's anything wrong with, there's a lot of Appalachian creators who have made cookbooks and they share their family recipes. And I love that. And I support those creators. But for me, I'm just like, I'm a normal person. And this is what Appalachians are. We are normal people. And, we do just want to be treated like normal people. So many people are like, "Oh, I'm surprised you have all your teeth." And I'm like, seriously?
Yeah.
Uh,
Normal person.
oh my God, you wear shoes. Wow, I'm so shocked.
Wow. Yeah, you know what American Eagle is.
Yeah.
Uh, the funny thing about that is, I think it's very great of you to think like telling this Appalachian story and not monetizing. I think that you should cash in, Danielle. I really do, and here's why. I'm not even joking. I think that a lot of the times you personally tell your own story. I don't think that when I look at your TikToks, I don't think, oh man, this TikToker is just ripping off the Appalachian story. I see it as you advancing your own story, and I think you should make money on your own story, Danielle. I really do. I think that you should be one of the more successful TikTokers and just have money rolling in, because if money rolls in for you, that means money's rolling in for Kentucky and for Mingo County.
Economic impact, baby.
Economic impact. That small business goes to a big business. We've got employees. Boom. But anyway, I do commend you for that. But I personally think that you should be making money from it.
There's some people who've asked me, they're like, "When are you going to do merch?" I'm like, "Listen, I don't have time to do merch. Like, I don't know."
Oh, here, if you want to do merch, our partners at T Public will partner with you and they'll do all the work. I'll tell you that right now. We'll get you set up. All you do is upload designs. Boom, people are buying your merch. It's that simple.
Oh,
People buy ours. We're considered professional designers when we basically screw around on maybe Microsoft Paint. I don't know.
True. You've got to be better than we are. So anyway,
Yeah.
uh,
I think my dog is making a guest appearance in the background.
yep, I see Big Dog.
She has not farted yet, and that is normally a problem.
That's true. It is normally.
She knows I'm talking about her too.
Yep.
I have a question. So I thought what you mentioned earlier about probing people with why, like why is West Virginia so poor? Why is Appalachia so poor? Why is it considered this sort of destitute place? I think is a really, really smart framing for that because, and this is a criticism I have a lot of social media, maybe set TikTok aside from this because I think it allows for a little bit more nuanced conversation, but like things like Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, you know, you really just scratch the surface of things like, oh, West Virginia's poor, like, follow, you know, but you don't get into the meaty subject of like, why is there systemic poverty in Appalachia? Why is coal the main like economic resource, even though it has been phasing out for years, that type of thing. And so I'm kind of wondering, like, how did you, maybe that's not the best way of framing it, but like what compelled you to go further with that? I mean, because obviously like there's a lot of people in Appalachia who have the same feelings, but they're maybe not like getting out and voicing it directly. I mean, what compelled you to feel like I need to be a voice on this?
Why did I want to know why, or why did I feel like I needed to explain why?
Second one.
Because I feel like a lot of Appalachians don't even know why. And if
Mhm.
we don't know
Great
why,
point.
then we can't fix it. And, you know, like you were saying, people do know. They're just not as vocal, or they don't know and they don't know what to be vocal about. If you boost that, I guess, like morale, and people are able to defend themselves in a way that can be communicated, then they will. And so I guess like that's kind of why I felt like my dad, he has, you know, a lot of the same opinions about things that I do, but he still doesn't understand. Like he does now because I've, you know, we have open conversations about certain things, but it's like he still for a while didn't really understand how complex like certain things really can be. Like the need to keep everything else out was so that the same people who had power could maintain power in West Virginia. Like, so coal could be the end all be all for generation after generation. And I'm like, you know, this is kind of your fault because you didn't vote when I was growing up and you're going to vote now. Like, surprise, you know why, and you're going to go do something about it. So
That's great.
I think it's just, you know, I wanted other people to know why, but I wanted our people to know why. Like, why? Why
Yeah.
it's the way it is. Because growing up, I always wondered, I'm like, why don't we have anything here? Like, why is this,
Mhm.
why, you know, why is for our young men growing up here, the only thing that they can do is join the military, leave, or go to the mines? Like, why is that the only way? That's not how it is in other places. Why is it like that here? And I think once you can break that down and explain it to literally everyone, then you can maybe get change from it.
Yeah, and you know, you said that like these are the only things you can do here. I'm pretty sure, like verbatim, those were the same things that they laid out in October Sky because we were forced to
Mhm.
watch that several times
Oh
growing up, and
yeah.
that was from like the 60s or 70s. So clearly, things haven't changed much. I'm just kind of curious, like because you grew up in Mingo County, were you taught in school about the Battle of Blair Mountain or anything like that? Because we definitely were not.
No, no. And the only reason I know about that, here's a fun fact. My stepmother's grandpa was Nimrod Workman.
Ooh,
So that was like a huge, you know, whenever I learned that, I was like, oh, dang, you know? And so that's where a lot of my knowledge from that comes from, you know. My dad's dad was a coal miner. His dad was a coal miner. It's like literally can be traced back. And so when I was growing up, this is one thing I can say about my dad. He did not ever try to make my opinions the same as his. You know, he would not, he's not one of those, I vote this way, so you have to, or, you know, it was more about, you know, this is what I want. I just want you to be a good person and you do what you think is best all across the board. And so that allowed me to be more comfortable to ask questions about certain things. And then when my stepmom starts talking to me about this, I'm like, dang, like we were really bad. Why did nobody tell us? Like, how do you live in Mingo County and they don't even teach you this? You literally live in Mingo County and they don't teach you about that.
Yeah.
Shame.
Well, I mean, plus we have an entire education system in West Virginia where you have to take a West Virginia history course, and they still miss the biggest parts of it. But hey, you do know all 55 counties, I bet, so that's good.
I was going to say, I know all the county. I used to know all the county seats. I used to know all of them.
The biggest county and the smallest county. Yeah, you gotta know all that.
They teach the right stuff, I'll tell you that.
So important.
All right. Well, so you have a small business now. You're definitely West Virginia and Appalachia famous on TikTok. What does the future hold for Danielle now? I mean, what are the goals, or what do you see yourself doing moving forward?
I don't know. I have people tell me all the time, they're like, you need to move back across the river and run for office. And I'm like, no, because like I'm stuck in Kentucky for now. Like I'm a state traitor, okay?
As someone who ran for office, I don't recommend it.
No, I do not think that I'm cut out for that life. Like I mean, my husband, he gets on to me all the time. He's like, you shouldn't say that about Mitch McConnell. And I'm like, watch me. You could never run for office if you wanted to, because they would pull all your Facebook posts up. And I'm like, you know, I'm never going to anyways. Like, I think the changes that have to be made here have to start on a local level, because there's just way too much corruption once you get past, you know, your really local levels. It just becomes like, it's too messy. So that's definitely not something I would love to maybe like short-term, this is like a short-term goal, I guess. Like I would love to go door to door for Charles Booker next year. I wish he would get out here now.
Oh yeah.
So I could, you know, I could do the work and start early and not look like I'm coming in at the you know, like he's coming in at the tail end trying to just get votes. Like I would love that. I would, you know,
we're gonna flag that for his people.
I was gonna say we can hook you up with his people. We've had him on the show.
I mean, seriously, I have commented on his Facebook post. I'm like, okay, you're telling us what you're going to do for us, but we're out here in Eastern Kentucky, and I am begging you, what can we do for you? How can we help? And they're like, go online and sign up to run a phone. I'm like, I don't have cell phone service at my house. What else can I do?
And you know what? That actually annoys the piss out of me too, because when Charles Booker was on this show, that was the stuff where I was like, that's the number one thing your campaign shouldn't do, is these almost bot-like responses where it's like, sign up for my website or donate to my campaign. Like, give people real objectives on how they can help in your campaign. That makes them have some type of worth, and it makes them buy into the entire campaign. So not only do they want to help you win, but they'll do everything in their community to get you another vote. And that, and so to hear that makes me realize that he's missing the boat a little bit. And to be quite honest, he can't miss the boat at all, or he doesn't win. I mean, he has to run a perfect campaign. So to hear that makes me a little worried.
I mean, I have seen people share his stuff. Like I have on my Facebook, you know, I go and I read the comments and I see what people like. I know he doesn't have time. He's one person and he has a team of people who are trying to help him. But I'm like, you cannot win a Senate race in Kentucky without pulling from Eastern Kentucky. It's just not going to happen. And if
No way.
people don't know you and all they see are like Facebook ads and things that's being shared on Facebook by people they know, they're not going to relate to you at all. Is his platform and his ideas something that is needed in Kentucky? Yes, they are. They are desperately needed here. But if people don't know what he's running on, I'm scared. Like,
yeah, they're gonna look at the letter next to his name and they're gonna vote opposite. I mean, that's the way politics
yep.
is, and that's the sad part. Well, hopefully we can get Charles on the right track. We can get him linked up with you, and then you can help him, because I guarantee you, we go look at his staff, and maybe he's missing a person who knows a lot about Eastern Kentucky. I don't know.
Well, and we I do think I agree with you. I mean, it's Eastern Kentucky is such an important part of the state, and one that like you have to make inroads in if you're ever going to be competitive. And like, look, Charles Booker has, I mean, it's an uphill battle to say the least, but I mean, he's a candidate who can really, I think, turn people out and be a transformative candidate. Whether or not he can win is TBD, but I mean, he's an important figure for sure.
So there's like 4 counties that I think he could, if he got out here, I think he could do really good in. Pike County is one of them. Boyd County is another. It sits right along the Ohio River, and they were like full-blown Amy McGrath. And then Floyd County and there's one more. I forgot. Johnson County. I think that those 4 counties he could do pretty good in, but I'm like, he needs to be out here. I tried to get him in like messaging on his Facebook when we had those floods. I'm like, Mitch McConnell hasn't been here. Rand Paul hasn't been here. Get your butt out here. Get out here now. Like, your senators aren't even here. I'm not even in office, and I'm here for you. Like, there's a lot I think we see that they should or could be doing different. And it's like, how are you missing this? Like, this is a missed opportunity, and I honestly, I'm like, please get out here before next year, because if you wait until next year, people are going to feel like you ignored them the entire time until right at the end.
Yep.
And they will forget about you because they also feel forgotten. And I just,
well, no, we got Danielle fired up on that one. We got Danielle fired up.
Well,
so
what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut this clip and we're just gonna keep tweeting it at them until they respond.
That's exactly what we're gonna do. And if our listeners, if you like what Danielle's doing right now, go check out her TikTok. Danielle, where can people find you on TikTok?
My name?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
What's your username?
Danielle Kirk 731 is my TikTok name.
Well, that's easy. That's easy enough. And what about you said you have a small business. How can people learn more about your business?
Oh, I think it's linked on my TikTok.
Okay.
So it shouldn't be that hard to find. But like my Instagram and my site page and all that stuff should all be on my TikTok. I'll make for sure.
And I'll put it in the show notes too.
Okay.
All right, cool. Well, I think that is all the questions I have, because we got on a tangent even about Charles Booker, which is far more than I thought we were going to get on this episode. So I do appreciate you spending the time with us. I know you're super busy. I know you've got two kids sitting at home trying to get snacks. So we'll let you go. We'll let you go and handle that. But we do really appreciate you coming on.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks, Danielle.